And next on Radio 3, the fourth in the series of programmes on the life and the career of Luciano Pavarotti. Here's Sean Rafferty.
In his concerts, Luciano Pavarotti touched millions of hearts, people who would never have heard him in the opera house. He was generous with his time to the rising generation, spotting talent and encouraging it. And he had the respect and admiration of his colleagues, not just the other two tenors, but the many celebrated artists he worked with, like the great American mezzo-soprano Marilyn Horne.
The first thing that we recorded together probably was the Verdi Requiem.
With
Schulte, right? And, of course, that same experience with Joan when I was in the hall, and also Björling. So it's a special kind of resonance of the voice, and he had it.
Pavarotti wasn't exactly universally praised for his acting, but he did what he had to. That's how the director John Copley put it. He cared about his portrayal of character, and he cared passionately that the emotion was carried through the voice to the audience. Take Manrico, the revolutionary hero of Verdi's opera Il Trovatore, for instance.
Well, in this opera, Trovatore, the recitativo, aria and cabaletta are very demanding because they are written in a different way and they are close one to the other. So I would like to say then the cabaletta is the Everest of the mountain and all the rest is a very normal level mountain, let's say 5,000 feet. It's no more than that. And instead, the Everest, we know how high it is. And it's written, this music, close one to the other. And that is the reason why it's difficult, especially in our days in which you request a tenor who is a bel canto tenor. You cannot accept anymore, like in the past, a tenor who has just...
Pavarotti is the wild but dignified Manrico from Verdi's Il Trovatore. Well, in Il Trovatore, subtle acting is not apparently essential. Caruso once said that all you needed for a good performance were the four greatest singers in the world. Pavarotti certainly had the voice for those Everests of mountains that he talked about, but he did confine himself to roles in which he felt comfortable, and he sang almost always in Italian. You might not associate him with Mozart, but he was one of his favourite composers, the director John Copley.
The son of the king, and eventually he sang the king himself. And it's the most beautiful, stylish Mozart singing, and that all came out of Yanni. Well, I worked with him a lot over the years in various productions, and he was like lots of what I call superstars. He was very concerned with his image, naturally, first season, but he visited the house subsequently. I think it might have been the next year when he was a little bit fatter, when we were doing Traviata with Renato Scotto, and he sat on an 18th century table of mine downstairs, and suddenly it just went to powder. Just a pile of powder on the floor. I mean, it wasn't from Versailles, but I mean, it was an 18th century table. And I used to say, look, you earn so much, you have so much money, you could have a factory to make tables, and I could have one out of your table factory. Oh, they're so funny, John. Always so funny. I never got the tape.
Well, no doubt the props were sturdier for Pavarotti's one and only foray into movies. In Yes, Giorgio, he's a hugely successful, lovable, and overly amorous singer. Surprise, surprise, singing indeed at the drop of a hat. Opera puts me to sleep, says one character. That's because you've never heard me sing, says Giorgio. But the film was not a hit. Pavarotti's former manager was Herbert Breslin. So, what went wrong?
Yes, Giorgio was a very, very charming movie. And I was the one who was kind of involved in getting him to do it. One of the problems with Yes, Giorgio was not the movie and not the fact that he was singing, but the MGM's merchandising and marketing approach to the movie was totally wrong. Now, you can say, well, why did you tell him to change it? It's easy to say, but it's not so easy to do.
As one critic said, the rotund Pavarotti was no one's idea of a romantic leading man. Well, maybe not, but in real life, as Herbert Breslin, his former manager, knew only too well, things were rather different.
Now, the funny thing is, it's about, talk about Luciano and amorous affairs. One of the things he never had a problem with meeting women, having women meet him. They used to fall all over him. So that the reality of having a love story with Luciano was too real, and it was something that a great many people might not believe. How could people believe, how could young, beautiful women fall in love with an overweight, fat man? And, but they did. He had no problem at all in really getting the young, beautiful ladies to fall for him.
His voice was unique, a God-given gift, but one that he certainly worked hard on. Voices like his do not come along that often, let's face it. When young singers do appear, well, there are sharp-eared people like the great mezzo Marilyn Horne around.
We are always looking for wonderful voices, and when we hear a terrific tenor, it's sort of we sit up and take notice because of the fact that they've got this sort of aura around them as being the most difficult voice to sing, etc., etc.
Pavarotti himself, in the competition he founded, looked out for and encouraged the new generation of singers. Roberto Alagna, one of the pretenders to the crown of tenordom, was one of them.
He was a tenor, I think, with a very pretty voice. Then he came with Pagliacci, Andrea Chenier, and all these roles. And I say here in Modena, I say to him, I send you to Philadelphia because you have a beautiful voice, but in Philadelphia I want you to come with Traviata, Rigoletto. And he did, and he won the competition, and he sang Traviata in Milan. And the name is Alagna. And that is an intelligent one that followed the advice.
I was young, I was studying opera, and I was very shy. And I remember a friend told me, Pavarotti finished in 88, and I was the winner, and I was very, very, very proud, because Pavarotti was my idol. Mm. And I remember he told me, because at the beginning I came with very heavy part, Andrea Chenier, Turandot, a lot of big pieces. And he told me, now when we'll go to the final in Philadelphia, come with lyrical pieces, Bohème, Rigoletto, Traviata. And he told me, and this repertoire you will sing later. And I made that, and in Philadelphia he was very happy, and he started to cry, when I sang. And when I saw him, I started to cry myself, And from that moment, we had this beautiful relation between us. And I remember the last time I saw him in live was in Los Angeles. I was there singing Pagliacci, and he invited me for his concert in open air, in Los Angeles. And after the concert he told me, you remember a lot of advices, but all the time not directly. He gave me with a mysterious sense. I had to think about all the time.
I think it would be wrong if you produce somebody in your style. Like I say, we pass the testimony to other people, but the other people can choose any one of the good one than we are. So it's not, I will never in my competition say to somebody, sing like I'm singing. I would say, sing like that because it's good for you.
The voice that was such an inspiration for the young tenor Roberto Alagna, who won Pavarotti's competition back in 1988, who remained close to the great man and still took his advice. So what was the thing he'd most remember and cherish about him?
Just 20 days before his death, I called him. I was in Paris, and after the story of the Scala, etc., I was
etc., indeed. Yeah.
Yeah, you can imagine. I don't want to speak again about that. But I called him. He was in his bed, and I said, "Maestro, I'm Roberto. Come stai, Luciano?" And he was so kind, and he told me in that moment something very strange. He used, the enigma of Turandot, and he said to me, "Non perdeti straniero." It means, don't lose yourself, stranger, in Turandot. And he said, remember the 3 notes. And after that, I was in my home thinking about this phrase. What he wants to tell me. In fact, I remember 4 years ago, BBC with Decca made a portrait of Pavarotti, And I remember the interviewer asked me, could you explain the Pavarotti's techniques? And I said, Pavarotti has 3 notes, mi, fa, sol, the 3 notes of the passage, you know. Those 3 notes are perfect. And after, now I understood, in fact, when he said that, remember the 3 notes, it was in fact to tell me, don't forget you have also those 3 notes, you know. It was amazing, you know. And Pavarotti was like this all the time.
Roberto Alagna. Well, the Peruvian Juan Diego Flores, another tenor renowned for his ringing top Cs, was also in a way a Pavarotti protégé.
The last time I saw him was in Pesaro, in his house. I had dinner with him and my wife, and it was the last time he sat on the table to dine anymore. So he made, he made an effort to be sympathetic and to be, to converse, despite his pain, because he was very sick. After I met him, it's, mainly a different repertoire.
I learned a lot with Pavarotti about life, because in fact, the singing is life. And if you are not well in your brain, with your nerves and everything, it's impossible to sing. And the other thing is to keep the flame. You know, when you are young and you want to do this profession, you have a beautiful flame in your heart. And you must keep that. Pavarotti kept that for all his life. And this is the biggest lesson I received from him.
Roberto Alagna, before him Juan Diego Flores, on the legacy of Pavarotti. Keep the flame in your heart.